Hi guys, Kasey here. Welcome back to When the Comfortable Gets Uncomfortable. Today we have a guest speaker, Taylor. Taylor and I met on, yes, say hi. Uh,
Hey guys.
Taylor is a beautiful, light, and wonderful soul, and we actually met on Instagram. We have very similar histories and like past life, like walks of life that we have journeyed through up until now. And I came across her Instagram. I don't even know, it's probably like 6 months ago. She had posted this reel and it was all about attachment styles. And you guys know my story, you know my history with relationships and all of that. And when I saw this reel, I was just like, oh my gosh, this speaks to me. It's all about the different like attachment styles of being like anxious attachment and disassociated attachment or whatever. Taylor, I'll have you chime in on all those attachments later because that's kind of more your um, persona. But it spoke to me and I was just like, this girl gets it. And I commented and then chimed on some other comments. And then there was a lot of like back and forth comments going on this reel. This reel ended up blowing up and pretty much going viral because so many women suffer or are exposed to these different attachment styles, whether it be the way that they grew up, the way that they saw their mom and their dads like having different relationships, just different life patterns, different walks of life, different journeys, different things that they have seen that have been that have influenced their life and the way that they lead in their relationships in their life now. And then different also like past lives kind of step into that as well. We're all here for certain reasons and to settle certain debts. And a lot of those like karmic relationships are a part of that. And these karmic relationships is where a lot of our wounds and our attachment styles are really highlighted. And me and Taylor ended up conversing through our DMs. I reached out to her, I think personally, and I was just like, thank you for this post. This was so great. Like, I'm so glad that you are really touching base on this and like putting this out into the world because people need to know that it's not the relationship, it's the style, it's the things that you have been exposed to growing up in your life that kind of lead to you having these attachment styles in your relationships as an adult. um so I'm so glad that we met. And thank you so much for being on this podcast. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Taylor now. And she's going to kind of just explain her story and how she got to where she got and what in her life, like where the comfortable got so uncomfortable that she was like, this is not the life for me. And I need to change. And really need to bring everything that I've been through and share it with the world and like help other women get out of these relationships or heal from these attachment styles. So, Taylor, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kasey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reel was some of my most vulnerable art.
Yeah.
And I find that like the things that I've made that were the hardest to put out there have had the best reach and brought the most people in. And I love my favorite comments on that reel were the ones where people were like, wow, thank you. What somebody wrote on there and said, I feel a little less alone in the world. And that, oh, I just had chills.
I
That
just
was like
too.
my heart because there is a lot of shame that can build up in relation to having an insecure attachment style. And what's interesting about that video is I had put on there POV, you have anxious dating with anxious attachment style. But what that really, if you get into the nuance of it, was displaying was more fearful, avoidant, or disorganized. And I have a lot of clients that come to me and they assume that they are anxious. But what if you peel back some of the layers, they more likely have patterning that relates or aligns to what we call I like calling it disorganized better, but
Mhm.
disorganized or fearful avoidant. And
Mhm.
most people who have CPTSD, who have significant trauma, are actually dealing with this like intricate, complex mixture of both of those patterning showing up,
Yep.
where there's this like deep craving for closeness and intimacy, but there's also a lot of fear and walls surrounding it as well. So
Yep.
it's this internal push pull, which I illustrated in the video of like, there's the anxieties turned inward. So
Mhm.
it's like there's all this anxiety and hyper monitoring of the connection, but there's also this fear of vulnerability. So they're less likely to speak up and say to the other person, hey, it'd be really nice to hear from you when
Mhm.
you get home, or to check in sometimes, or this would really support me, because all of that is just like there's this fear around vulnerability, right? So you're just suffering in silence
Yep.
many a times, and it can cause you to self sabotage relationships, push people away, not be able to speak about your true feelings, create all these really painful stories and assumptions about the connection, and then they become self fulfilling prophecies.
Yep.
And I, the thing I love about spiritual teachings and spiritual wisdom is that it's given me such a sense of purpose, where I think I used to just think I was just, got handed like a shitty deck of cards
Mhm.
and kind of had this humor around it, like, oh yeah, my parents, this happened, but I'm out here, I'm doing my best, and just didn't see how everything that I've experienced has really led me, like all of us, our unique and journey is bringing us to where we're meant to be. Our pain truly is our purpose and
Mhm.
our power.
Yep.
And yeah, a little bit about my background, and just how this came to be. My parents were not together when I was born. They had split up. My dad had a problem with drugs and alcohol
Mhm.
and was just not around. I saw him, started seeing him some when I was 7, and he had another child with someone else, and so he asked that I come around, and so it was me and my mom. And I have a lot of memory gaps, as a lot of people do,
Yeah.
but my mother was a very abusive. She was extremely volatile in her moods. I guess if you wanted to put a label on it, and like you said, it's what we call these things to understand the traits, but there's always something deeper, right?
Yep.
So bipolar, there's something called intermittent rage disorder, which I
Yep.
think aligns with a lot of her behavior patterns. And yeah, she had a lot of really terrible failed relationships. She emotionally is like a little girl. I mean,
Mhm.
just very explosive. So there were a lot of really complex dynamics growing up. And my dad, when I would go over to his house, he really didn't interact with me very much. He would kind of just ignore me and have me help his wife clean or take care of my younger brother. And there was also a lot of domestic violence in his home as well. So both my mother's and my father's homes were not safe and very scary.
And then
And
here you are as a little girl, just like looking for somebody to love you.
yeah,
How do I get love from these people? Which translates later on in life. So,
which is so interesting, because biologically we are wired to survive. And what do we need to survive? What does anyone in the animal kingdom need to survive? Caregivers. Before
yep.
you can take care of yourself, you need those people to choose you. You
Yep.
need them to not abandon you or you're dead. And
Yep.
so we are biologically wired to have this adaptation mechanism to where we will shapeshift into whatever the people that our caregivers need us to be in order to survive. And we're all born so energetically sensitive. And a lot of people, turn that off so they're able to live in this world where the energy is so dense. But
Yeah.
when you need that sensitivity for your survival, because you have to hyper monitor people's moods and the safety in your environment, that becomes your superpower. Although, like we said, it doesn't feel that way
Yeah.
at the time, and it takes time to um step into the full expression of that gift and out of the shadows of it.
Yep.
It really becomes a superpower that you develop.
Yes.
And I spent Probably like starting at 15 years old, like
Mhm.
got my first boyfriend, and people started to notice me. I looked different and people treated me different at school. And I realized, oh, I'm cute, and it feels good for people to like be nice to me for that.
Yep.
Um, and I remember having a boyfriend and he would tell me he loved me. And it was just like this beautiful feeling that I hadn't experienced. And I started to associate being pretty with getting the love that I was so starved for.
Oh my gosh.
So that created this like cycle of relationship with no gaps. Like if the things weren't working out in this relationship, I'm finding a replacement relationship to move into
Yep.
next. And then there's like also when, when we are I there's this expression that says when you aren't fed love on a spoon, you will lick it off a knife.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yes.
it's so interesting to see when you think about relationships are our mirror,
Yep.
and the way that we are the different socialization process of men and women. So,
Mhm.
men who are starved for love and women who are starved for love, oftentimes that manifests differently.
Yep.
And there are men who are starved for love in order to feel safe in love,
Mhm.
they resort to mechanisms of control. And
Mhm.
then who is a great person to fit like a puzzle piece into that dynamic is the person who's starved for love and looking and is willing to shape shift into anything that other person needs them to be. So
Yes.
you get these really toxic dynamics where it's like the narcissist and the empath, which I think if you if you peel back the layers of those two things at the core root of it, there
Mhm.
is this deep fear, need for intimacy, and also simultaneous fear of it.
Yep. Yeah, because
And
one of
that's,
the
there's so much nuance, but would
yeah.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Kasey?
Because like oftentimes when we've grown up in those situations, it sometimes can be ripped away from us. And so we're like, we want it and we chase it and we'll do anything to get it. And then once we get it, then it's like we push back because we're like, oh, when is it going to be taken away? I have to keep my guard up. I have to protect myself. So we build these shields and we build these guards and these brick houses all around us, but then we like go chasing for it when we want it, and it's just a toxic vicious cycle. And everything you're saying resonates so deeply with literally all my relationships. It was like me like shape shifting. I always called it I chameleonized myself. I was a chameleon and I would be whatever these people, what I thought they wanted me to be for them to love me. And then when they wouldn't, it was like, well, what do I need to do now? And then I would push them away and then they would come chase you back and be like, oh, hey, I'm still here. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then they like pull away and it's this battle. And it's just like, it's so toxic and it's so exhausting, so exhausting. But the way that you were able to articulate it all, I love so much. I love so much. So I want to hear more about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, yeah. So, like what you just said, that push-pull dynamic, I think it's rooted in wanting a sense of control.
Mhm.
And what is at the root of control? A lack of safety. So it all boils down to you don't believe that connection is safe. You don't feel safe in connection. And you're
Mm.
trying to create coping mechanisms to give you that illusion of control. And then that brings in the testing and the let me pull away so they can come in and chase me and prove something to me. That sort of energy comes into play. And it's interesting because even as you heal and evolve, there's sneaky little ways that those coping mechanisms heal and evolve and wear new masks with you. So that's always really interesting, just in my own journey and in working with clients and being like, "Mm, what's the intention behind that message? Are you trying to elicit some sort of response?" Like you kind of
Yeah,
have to really watch how sneaky those things evolve with you in your process.
because as we're evolved, our lessons and the way that these opportunities to continue to evolve and see where we are on our evolvement meter, they change and they grow and they're different, right?
Mhm.
So, like for instance, I feel like I need to bring this up. So there was this guy that I talked to, and he was um I'm on a 5-year single and celibate journey right now. The last relationship I was in, it was that, I mean, just, it was lust, it was everything. It was like, oh my gosh, this is my person. And I mean, everything was like so good. And then it wasn't. And then it was like the tug of war dynamic. And then I literally like confessed, I was like, I want to see where this can go. I really like you. Like, this is, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, I can't give you what you want, and ran out of my house. And at the time, my world, I was like devastated. I was like, how could he not? How does he even know what I want? Like, he can give me what I want. And at the time, I didn't understand. And now looking back, I'm like, that is the best, most honest thing any man could have ever done for me, said to me, anything. Cause he was so on it. He was like, I can't give you what you want. I should have been like, okay, peace. But at the state I was in then, I was like, why? Why? What do you mean you can't give me what you want? Like, I wanted him to want me and love me so bad. And then that's when I was like, I'm done chasing these same energies in different bodies. I've got to figure out there's the only common denominator is me. And now we're going to start my healing journey. And so here I am, still single, still celibate. I kind of talked to this one guy in the midst of this 5 years, and I recognized the signs right away. He was all about me until I showed him that I was all about him. And then he pulled, and then he'd come in, and then he'd pull, and then he'd come in. And I recognized it. And I finally was like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with this. Like, you need to grow up. You like, this is not going to be a thing. And I cut him off quicker than anything. And he came, I had this feeling. I think it was like early spring this year. It was like around March. I had this feeling he was going to come back into my life. And I think we're even in a Mercury retrograde. And I was like, I just feel his energy like coming in. I was having dreams about him. And sure as shit, he texted me, and he had the audacity to ask me to do a reading for him. He's like, hey, how are you? Are you still doing readings and blah, blah. He's like, do you think you could do a reading for me? And I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, universe, you're good. Like, you are good. And so I simply messaged him, and I was just like, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I gave him 2 referrals, and I was like, here's some people I can refer you to. Like, I hope you're doing well. Peace.
Yeah.
And he ended up texting me back, and he was like, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. He was like, I want you to know I've been really working on myself. I've been healing. He was like, you really taught me a lot. He was like, I learned so much from our time together. And he was like, I wish nothing but great things for you. And I was just like, okay. I was like, if I triggered you into your healing and your evolvement, job done.
Yeah.
Because it was such a learning lesson for me. But that's how those little they creep back in those like most unexpected ways. And you're just like, the audacity to ask me for a reading. Are you kidding me right now? Like, come on. You can get one of those anywhere. But it's just crazy. So
What I love to tell clients about that is that, because sometimes, especially when you're looking at it through a spiritual lens, I have clients that'll be like, what is this supposed to be? Like, why again? Like, this isn't my person. Why did this person come in just to, leave or whatever? And I'm like, anything that triggers you it's not the external. It's pinging on something that's already inside of you. It's always giving you this beautiful mirror of, look at where you're still not free. Look at where you are still making this person's actions mean something about your worth.
full.
Look at where you are still telling stories about how you are the problem or you did something wrong when they leave. Like,
Yep.
and you cannot, I believe in my heart that every woman who is a lover girl, who has this like big, beautiful heart, who has this like cosmic longing for deep, intimate, beautiful love, is meant to experience it. And
Yes.
every person that you meet along the journey holds this like key or next or like lock to your next level, your next iteration, because it's that process of becoming, right?
Yep.
We're trying to become the version of ourselves that can easily hold what we want. And at the core, walls breed walls. And
Yep.
underneath what feels like, an anxious attachment and a longing, there are also walls around vulnerability, which is part of the reason why energetically we're like, ooh, here's this closed off person. Let me scratch and claw at this closed, locked, bolted door. Because
Yeah.
in doing that, I'm replaying old dynamics and I'm not ever going to really have to open up my own vulnerability or face my own issues with vulnerability because this person is also not emotionally available.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh, that's so true. So how did you get to this point? You were talking about the boyfriend when you were 15. How did you get to this point to where it all kind of like just fell down for you and you were like, "Oh my gosh." Like and you kind of like woke up and you just realized this and then you started using these things that were happening. I hate to say happening to you, but they happened to you, but really they happened for you because that was your catalyst. Just like relationships and heartbreak has been my biggest catalyst of realizing that like the most valuable and potent love is love, like the self-love that we can give ourselves. So what was your big like aha moment, awakening, like catalyst moment, and like when did you like realize your gifts and how you could use those to help other women?
Yeah. So for years and years, I was running from this like deep, deep pain. And, I made a reel once about how pretty privilege can like extend you, extend the time it takes for you to reach your breaking point with
Mhm.
relationships because there's just an endless supply of new men that are like, okay, great, you'll give me attention and love me. And, until that doesn't work out. And then there'll just be another one. And so it became this like, I could not handle when either something was like super toxic and got so bad that we couldn't be together anymore, or I would feel that push pull dynamic of somebody like being closed off and pulling away. And I could not handle that. Like when I would feel, and then, when you are when you're sensitive and you learn to hyper monitor connection, you
Mhm.
pick up on these slight, a shift before there's even a change in behavior.
Yep.
And so the second I would feel the shift, I was like, and also I didn't understand what went on with, I didn't understand myself. So
Mhm.
I just assumed everyone was experiencing relationships this way, just like that's what they were.
Mhm.
And so the second I'd feel a shift, the pain in my chest would be so unbearable. I remember driving home from work one day and feeling this like shift in the energy of this person I was seeing, not even like a significance to the person, and needing to get home and drink or use drugs or like
Mhm.
anything to numb. And then
Yep.
of course, like immediately find someone else. Like, nope, I need a replacement. I need a distraction. I need to feel what I'm needing to feel from somewhere else. And there
Yep.
would be this weird cycle of like, okay, I need to balance my energy towards this person. So I'll have another person. And then this person will kind of come back around and I'll kind of balance that. So I mean, honestly, through my 20s, I usually had two boyfriends at a time,
Mhm.
and that's not the anything that's just a real me being honest about how intense the attachment trauma was. And that was my way of literally balancing my like gaping need for love.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I had several relationships like that. I had one that was particularly toxic. I read this book about the neurological impacts of trauma. And there was like, oh, it was kind of like this peeling back of shame because it was like, I kind of understood myself a little better. Then I
Mm.
started going to therapy, and my therapist was like, because it was so easy to gaslight me
Mhm.
because like when your reality has been when you've experienced that so much in childhood and also when you have had people who are your caregivers but also could be very cruel and violent towards you, it creates an association in the brain between love and pain. So it
Yes.
feels like home to be with someone who is both loving and dangerous at the same time.
Yes.
And that feels like safety to your system. It's like if
Yeah.
you put your life on a tilt-a-whirl and you try to stand on the ground, that feels weird. You want to get back on the tilt-a-whirl
Yep.
because that
Yeah.
feels at least right.
Normal.
It feels right. It feels
Yeah.
normal. It
It
feels
feels normal.
a
Yep.
strange way because it's familiar.
Yep.
And that's what our system wants. And my therapist, so even being very intelligent, I was still just would struggle with these confusing, conflicting feelings. And she
Mhm.
had to write down for a week everything he did because he would do things and then he would tell me it was my fault. And I would just like
Yeah.
not, not think about it. And then something new would happen. And when as I read, even after a few days, I read the little comments and the things he would do. And I was like, oh my God, this is my mom. I truly believe that we seek out, like, when I work with clients and they tell me about their major relationships, I'm like, okay, that one was your dad. That one was your dad trauma. That one was your mom trauma. Because they'll be like, these two relationships were so different. And
Yeah.
so, I think that just like our emotional body, or just like our physical body, when we eat the right foods and get sleep and rest, it heals itself. It's this very evolved mechanism, our
Yeah.
vessel. Our emotional body wants to heal it through triggers because the only way to heal what has been pushed down is to bring it to the surface. How do you bring it to the surface? Through catalysts, through
Yep.
other people, through circumstance.
Yep.
So I believe that anyone who has both mom and dad trauma, there has been a major relationship where if you were to look at the underlying sneaky patterns, you'd be like, all right, that's dad stuff. This is mom stuff. And that's my psyche. Find and that feeling you feel, like that explosion of like, oh my God, this is it. This is my person. Like this intensity. I
Mhm.
think a lot of times that's our psyche being like, there's something in here for you. We're pulling you towards it. There's something
Yep.
for you to unlock.
Yep.
Um, and so, yeah, it just things got so bad that there was no denying it. I was doing my own healing work, and we s- separated, went our own ways. And I was like, oh man, I'm really gonna have to I'm gonna have to do something about this. And at that point, I had been, and I had a lot of anger my whole life. I mean, both my parents have been court ordered anger management, like very angry, volatile people. And then
Mhm.
I had found a lot of relationships like that. And so they are volatile. And well, this is a little girl who's been protecting herself her whole life. Like, you want to go? Let's fucking go. Like,
Yep.
very much like you bring out the beast in me.
Yep.
And yeah, so I had a lot of anger and I had been studying about plant medicine and I heard this podcast on Huberman and they said when you have experience a feeling in your body that you've never experienced, and for me that was safety, it goes from theoretical to obtainable to your body and nobody can take that from you. So
Mhm.
you like feel what it's like to our natural birthright of being safe or feeling self-love or feeling at peace or present and things I hadn't felt. And
Mhm.
so like, you know what? I remember I wrote in a notebook because leading up to this ceremony, I was like, am I insane? Like, this is crazy, you know? So I wrote in this notebook, I wrote, we're going to take her power away. And I was referencing my mom because I felt like that was the source of a lot of my rage. She was just really cruel. And
Mhm.
so that's what I saw myself working through. And of course, with plant medicine, you never know where it's going to go.
Yep.
And so we followed the John Hopkins protocol. I had someone who sat with me. It was 5 grams, and plant medicine, psychedelics, it
Mhm.
removes the wall from
Yep.
the conscious and the subconscious. So there's like this, like, here's your blocks, here's what you've been not seeing with clarity, whether
Yeah.
you're ready or not.
Yep.
And with it, this is just so crazy to me still. Within 30 minutes of the medicine taking hold, it was like a voice in my head, and it was like, your mom was sexually abused by your grandfather, her father, when she was young. And that's also what happened to you. And here's all the evidence in the ways that you already know that. And it was like everything you know about, the impacts of childhood sexual abuse from your 15 years in public education, everything you know about the psychology of it and the impact. I remembered my mom telling me that as a little girl about herself and telling me that I told her that when I was 3. I remembered like just moments around him, there was this like weird feeling. I remembered the moment in my early 30s because he was like a father figure to me. I was his favorite. Like he was always, my mom couldn't keep a job. So he was always giving us.
You blocked this out. Like,
Huh?
you had blocked this out. Isn't
He
that
was
crazy what our
uh,
moms do? How they block things out to, like, protect us for so long, and they're like, "Okay, now you can handle it." Wham! Like,
gosh, I was
"Here's
just
yours."
thinking, like, I remembered when had started therapy, and he had died 2 years before my first plant medicine ceremony, but years ago, when I first started therapy, I was telling him and his wife, and, his wife had said, "Well, you're doing so well, you've got all these degrees and you're doing so well," and I choked up and I said, "On the inside, I don't feel good." And I remember looking at my grandfather, and he wouldn't even look at me. He was looking at the floor. And
Mm,
I thought, why won't he look at me? Why won't he even look at me? And so it was just a really emotional experience because I was like, that motherfucker ruined my mom's life. And he's the reason everything happened to us. And then I sat up and I was like, what the fuck? And on my wrist at the time, because he had died 2 years before, and I had taken, because he would always write me letters and cards and things in his handwriting. I had taken it and gotten a tattoo that said, "All my love, Pawpaw," on my wrist. And I looked at that fucking tattoo and I was like, are you kidding me? It was just like every memory,
mm,
every my entire life. It was just like flipped upside down because I was like, I've been missing all this context for so long. There were so many signs. I peed the bed when I was little. I had all these things. And so since then, I've gotten a lotus over that tattoo. But it was just in that experience. First, there was a lot of grief. I connected with the little girl version of my mom and how he just died, letting everybody think she was crazy her whole life. And just how confused and scared and how much shame and guilt she must carry. And I also connected with rage, like so much so it was like an exorcism of rage. My hands were like claws, like just feeling the energy of rage move through my body at him. And just this really strong connection to my feminine that I'd never felt, where I just wanted to, like, I was angry. I was angry just at him and men in general. And
and
I
this
wanted
was
to just
all
protect
during
them.
your mushroom journey. This
Oh,
was all
yes, yes, all
okay.
through the first mushroom, journey, and this was like an hour of time, and it was just so crazy because normally it's hours that you're in it, and I was still in it, but I told the lady that's sitting with me after about an hour, I was like, "That's enough. That's enough."
You processed a lot. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that is oh. So did you I mean, because 5 grams is a lot. Like, I've done 5 grams before, but I did 3, and then I think it was, like, a booster of, like, 2 during a ceremony, and I went to another planet. So, like, that all happened within an hour, and then did anything more come up? Like, did you just kind of sit there and just, like, process everything that you had already, like, released? Like,
That's
what
the crazy thing because I've done 5-gram journeys since then where I was in the ether. But
yeah,
I genuinely think that the plants give you what you're ready for and what you can process at a given time. Because when I tell you I set up and I could hear, and the lady guiding me was like, "Do you want to go back in?" Because I had an eye mask, and I said, I couldn't speak for a minute. And I said, "That's enough." And when I said that's enough, I mean, I was no longer, things were a little, wavy, but I
yeah,
was not in it.
in
Like,
it.
you know what I mean? I was like, and I do want to add that about a month later, I called a relative to confirm some of the things, and she confirmed, the things that had came up.
We
But
just needed that potent of a dose to unlock that block. Like, wow, medicine is I have so much respect for medicine and what it can do for us.
mm,
But, okay, so then what unfolded after this journey?
I have a lot of Virgo in my chart. And I am determined as fuck. If I want something, if I want to do something, I have this, like, it's like I have no motivation, but when I really want to do something, I'm like this just
Mhm,
unstoppable force. And
mhm,
so this kind of cracks me up, but also I love this version of me because she wanted so badly to heal and she was so fucking hyper independent.
mhm.
I thought to myself, "Oh, I was never, like, scared or anything. I really didn't need a guide. Like, I can do this by myself." So I purchase mushrooms and I start setting up my own ceremonies by myself in my downtown apartment. And I decide once a month, I'm going to do 4 grams and I'm going to work through more stuff because I could feel this lightness and this lifting. And
Mhm.
so I start doing that because I just think I can do it by myself. And
Yep.
about 4 journeys, on my 4th journey, Spirit was like, no. It fractals everywhere. I'm on the floor. I'm like cold. I'm hot. I'm like, oh shit, Taylor, this is not, you should not be doing this by yourself. And I felt this peace and this like feeling I'd never felt. And I thought, and this is, I have a lot of like old religious programming trauma from my mom. So I've always been very atheist. I thought to
Yep.
myself, this is what people say when they say they found God. This is that. And I
Yes.
knew everything was going to be okay. I knew
So
everything was going to change. I was like, oh, there you are, God.
yep.
And that was my spiritual awakening.
Yeah. And that is beautiful. That's such a beautiful feeling. Like when you have that moment of just like pure peace and love and like acceptance of self, it's the most pure and divine feeling. Like no one can take that away from you. No one.
Oh my God. I'd
Yeah.
never felt anything like that before. It was
Yeah.
incredible.
Mm, I love that for you. I want everybody to experience that.
And yeah, a friend of mine and I were talking about that, how when you first discover medicine, you like want everyone to do the medicine and not everybody's ready
Everyone,
for this.
no, not everyone's ready. People will think you are straight up nuts. I'm like, no, you need to do this. And they're like, no, no.
Like,
Like,
that sounds
oh,
awful.
this isn't something everybody wants. What? You don't all want to like uncover your demons and like sense, like feel like oneness with God? Like, what? Why?
Let's see. I think, to me, and I say this all the time, is when it was explained to me that I'm carrying all that in me and I'm micro dosing the feeling of pain and suffering every day, and I can sit and I can just grit white knuckle through it. Like that was my thinking at the time, which
Mhm.
I've learned since about grace and being gentle and not, letting things go in their own process. But at the time, that's why I was like, nope, another 4 grams this month because we're letting more out. We're having another exorcism, baby. A lot about the plants and respecting the medicine since then. But like I
Yeah.
said, I laugh, but I also hold love for that version of me who was just like, I'm healing,
You
hell or high water.
you have to love that version of you. That version of you got you to where you are today. And speaking of where you are today, so then how, like, after that, your spiritual awakening, all you unlocked all this trauma from your childhood, you're processing, you're dealing, you're like going to therapy. Tell me more about how that fed into your life and relationships and how you're helping women now.
Wow. Yeah, it's just been this incredible journey, and there's so many iterations of me along the way, and also more to come. And I think at some point in that journey, I realized because at that point I was all in. I mean, I actually left my
I mean, you
career.
can't go back. You can't go back after that. Like, once you unlock that, like, there's no going back.
Or and that's what I felt in that journey. I was like, your life will never be the same.
Yep.
That was I resigned from my position as an assistant principal at the end of that school year after that experience, and I took my savings. I went to Bali. I did everything. I probably experimented with like every modality out there, and
Mhm.
now I love that I had that journey because I feel like I took all these different timelines and now I have this way of working with people where I can help them be like, I see where you're at. Okay, here's what's happening here. And a client the other day, it was really beautiful because I could see her in her process and figuring out like the spiritual looking at things through a spiritual lens
Mhm.
and being a thinker and a doer and like Virgo energy. She's wanting to like, she's like, well, I feel like if I need to go do this and then this will make this happen. And then I need to go this. And it made me kind of giggle because I had a phase where I was trying to micromanage my path.
Mhm. Yep.
And I'm a Pisces North Node and a Virgo South Node. So my entire life's purpose is to learn faith and surrender.
Yep,
And
sure.
I think patience was a big thing in the beginning because I was so ambitious. All the ambition that I used to get a PhD and be the first person in my family to go to college and do all these things, I turned that towards healing. And so what I've had to learn is like the allowing and the receiving and the you don't actually have to fight and run and go search for all the pieces because life is flowing to you. It is
Yes.
happening. If there is a person that needs to unlock the next iteration of you, they will find you if you hide in your apartment. They'll be the delivery person. They'll find
Yep.
you.
So true.
Life will send you everything you need. You
Yes, yes,
just
well,
let go and allow and trust. And that is, I mean, my
hard.
boyfriend always laughs at me because he's like, I'll say this deep philosophical thing, and he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, Taylor, no problem." Because I'll say these really hard things, like it's just
Nothing.
let go and trust and surrender. Duh.
Yep. You're like, "Yeah, better said than done."
Yeah, but it's been this really beautiful realization because like earlier when you were talking about when we find somebody and we're like, "Oh, this is it. I really want this." A lot of times we're coming from this very extractive energy and
Mhm,
it's like this wanting. And a long part of my journey, I was just wanting to feel good. I want my partner. I want to get better so I can find my partner and so I can have all this abundance and I can feel good because then I'm going to feel good.
mhm.
And so a big part of my journey was this moment of like, and then I would look at like my most admired spiritual healers and how they would still be working through things. And I'm like, why are they working through things? Isn't there a finish line? Aren't we just done at some point and life is perfect? Isn't that the whole point?
I wish, I know.
And that came from a place of still needing something external, still feeling like, well, I'm doing all this work. What am I doing all this work for? To feel good. And this is what I think is going to make me feel good. And there was this moment where I was like, oh, life is always going to be life. It's just I'm creating a version of myself that can let an energy run through me that doesn't label, that isn't afraid of feeling angry, that isn't afraid of feeling sad because I've let go of so much old stuff. It's
Mhm,
not like I have this internal dam that's holding up years of rage and grief that if I feel any rage or grief from anything, I can't handle it because the dam would break. I've done so much work that now when life is being inevitable life, I
mhm.
can allow anger or grief to run through. And I am strong enough of a container to
Yeah.
just allow that and to accept that experience instead of because it's the resistance. It's
Yep,
resistance that keeps us stuck. It
yep.
keeps us from just moving through. I tell clients sometimes I like to think of it as like a Candyland game and
Mhm.
we're going along and sometimes you're trying to get to like lollipop queen forest or whatever but you got to go through like muddy swamp and there's a value that's duality. I mean there's value in that muddy swamp experience too because all of it is getting you where you need to go and when you can let go and just allow these experiences and allow these things to shape and forge you
Mhm.
that ends a lot of your suffering.
Yep. Yeah, and it's when it's going through those muddy waters, that swamp, the hard shit that we go through that builds that foundation and gives us the tools and everything that we need within ourselves to be able to when we experience these hard times when life is lifing for us to be like, "Okay, I've experienced this before. I've got this, and this is what I'm gonna do to get through it."
Mhm.
Instead of, like, resorting to drugs and alcohol or toxic relationships to numb ourselves or disassociate or whatever. And I had the same conversation with someone the other day. They're like, "Man, Case, like, it seems like life is great." I'm like, "Life is good. Like, there really is no good, there really is no bad anymore. Like, life just is." Because I have gone through so much and I have done so much healing and work and know the healing's never done. It's not linear. We're met with different levels of what we need to experience to evolve and grow and build that foundation and acquire those tools with everything that we go through. But I have a more centered and like self and more solid foundation to get through the things that life is going to throw at me.
Mm.
And I know that by getting through them, I'm going to be rewarded,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know?
And that not the create it took me so long. That's what I'm most excited about in my journey is embodiment. Because
Mhm.
it took me so long. I would get so agitated trying to process everything up here. Like just the concept of like create those feelings of wholeness with connect with your inner feeling of wholeness already and feel the feeling of abundance and love and all these things internally already. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? You feel something that you don't
Yep.
like. The more you go through it, you're just at some point it's like there's this clicking and this dropping in of like, oh, I get it now.
Mhm.
I look at the relationship that I'm in now and I'm able to speak up about my needs because I realize that if he were to say, I can't meet this need, I wouldn't take that personal.
Yep.
And that's the first time in my life that I could say that.
Yep. Oh my gosh, congratulations. That's amazing. That it takes a lot of work to get there. A lot of work.
Whew, oh, and it's beautiful. I heard somebody say one time that I interviewed on my podcast is she said when she was and I think about this a lot. She was like, when I was doing the work, I'm like, is this working? Is this happening for me? And then all of a sudden you reach a spot and you look around and you're like, oh wow.
Yep.
It was I was doing it the whole time.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes when we're in the trenches and we're like nose down and we're like blinders on and we're so focused on something, we don't realize the beauty we've created around ourselves. And I just had this aha moment the other day because one of my mentors and friends and um she's one of the ladies that leads a lot of the retreats that I go on with Mushroom Journeys. And she was like, I'm just so proud of you. She was like, you seem so grounded, so centered, the way that you're integrating post retreats now. And I'm just like, I sat down and like my team like gave me visions of like past times when I'd come home from ceremonies and stuff. And like the very first one I ever attended with her, I was like in the bathtub crying and I was like, I'm gonna die. I want to die. Like this hurts so much because all this pain was just like releasing. And she's like, you're gonna be fine. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, this is horrible. I don't want to feel these things. And
Mm.
now I feel it and I'm like, okay, where's this coming from? Where's the root of this emotion? All right, let's release it. Let's dissect it and be done with it. And it's so crazy the 180 or 360 even that I've done and that like from your story what you have done of healing from all of the trauma we've been through and as a child the relationships that we carried that trauma into and then now it seems like you're in a pretty healthy like good relationship and to know that like if that relationship does not meet all of your expectations and all of your needs you're like okay then we're not for each other and to be able to be in a spot where you can release a relationship because it is not everything that you deserve
Mm.
is that has got to be like the top of the mountain like
Let's
priceless. And that's what I was telling someone today. They're like, because I've been single for 5 years. And so they're like, aren't you like, don't you want a relationship? So I was like, yeah, it's something I want, but like, I don't need it. I have everything that I need. And I know that this relationship is going to happen. And when it does, like, great. And I also know that if he cannot make my cup's already full. If you don't make my cup overflow, and you don't give me what I need and I deserve and I know that I'm like worthy of, then I can release that and my cup's still going to be full. And like that's such a good feeling. Such a good feeling. I want to know how like tell me a little bit about your coaching, how you help women, how you bring what you bring to the table with your coaching. And then I kind of want you to talk about the different attachment styles because I feel like that's something that my audience is really going to be like, okay, what are these attachment styles? And like, how do I know to recognize them?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that I have this whole like spill on labels and I can definitely tell when I have a client who's been reading and like looking at it a lot because they're a little too attached to the attachment styles.
Yep.
I think that labels are this beautiful way first of all to bring people together based on things that they are familiar with on social media.
Mhm.
I think that it gives validity to something you're experiencing. I remember being on a plane after a particularly rough relationship and hearing a podcast. That was the first time I ever heard it, on the anxious avoidant pool, and tears just like coming down my face because I was like, I've never felt so seen. So I think that words and terms and labels give us this really beautiful validity and community and way to better understand ourselves. But I also encourage people to not get to not to over identify with it, right? And so in my languaging, I try, and I slip up sometimes, but I try to always say some of this is aligning with this type of patterning versus like, you have this, you know what I mean? Because then it becomes like this entity on you.
Yeah.
Um, and so there are typically, like within the framework that I operate in, there are four types of attachment styles. And then one is secure, which means like growing up, you had two parents and they would have conflict, but then they would have healthy repair. And you watched that. You watched them have healthy conflict because they weren't carrying loads of old rage and shame and grief. So they
Mhm.
were capable of letting things run through. They knew how to repair. They allowed you, they weren't threatened by who you were as a person.
Mhm.
So when you just naturally had inclinations and interests and personality traits, they supported that and they helped you build a sense of self. So you have a sense of self and you know who you are and you know what you're worth. And so when you meet someone and they have all of these unhealthy like patterns, you're going to intuitively, whether you've studied attachment trauma or not, you're going to intuitively know, hmm, this doesn't seem like a healthy person. Hey, nice to meet you. Best of luck to you in the rest of your life.
Yep.
So that's why secure people often end up with other secure people, because they recognize from the jump those red flags. And then it is estimated that 50% of the population has an insecure attachment patterning in the way they show up in relationships, which makes sense because of all the collective trauma that
Mhm.
we've experienced, and just like our society and how it goes so far, again in the West especially, how it goes so far against our true human and soul nature.
Yep.
And so there's three types that you hear about. So there's dismissive avoidant, and they typically have this belief that like love is smothering, love is too much. I'm not enough and I'm not going to be able to show up the way this person needs me to. I
Yep.
always let people down. It also, their nervous system feels, when they start to feel closeness with someone, it feels like, oh my gosh, I have to retreat. Like this isn't safe. They don't feel safe. And so their safety mechanism or their coping mechanism is retreat.
Yep.
And
Those are the type I always chased.
it's like, and so they want independence and they want to like have their own space because it's very easy for them to feel like consumed. And
Mhm.
this could be caused by a lot of different reasons, but one that I read once that was interesting was like, just think about a mother and a son, and if the son was very like adultified, and like the mother's kind of constantly dumping all of her emotional stuff and her issues onto the son, and very like clingy with the son because that's her source of like love and feeling good, and he feels that energy, that can kind of create that sort of attachment patterning. And there's all types of different ways, but I just thought that was one interesting kind of
Mhm.
example.
Yeah.
And then there is anxious preoccupied, which is learning that if I cling really hard to love and to connection, that I'll be safe. So
Mhm.
I need to like, a lot of times these are your people who have a lot of people pleasing tendencies. They might be super charismatic. Like they walk into the room and they're telling everybody how beautiful they are and how cute their outfit is. And they're like making everybody happy, and people love them because they're so sweet and nice and like this bubbly joy. But a lot of times at the root there's a lot of self-abandonment in there, and it's like I'm constantly living outside of myself and just looking around like, how can I keep everybody happy, how can I keep everybody liking me? um
Yep.
And so that's why the like it's sometimes called fearful avoidant, but then it's also called disorganized. That
Mhm.
is the other insecure type. And that is like a hybrid of the two. If you had a parent who was both hot and cold, they were your source of care, but they were also a source of like Sometimes you never knew what you were going to get.
Yep.
Sometimes one way and they're the other way. So it creates a very deep yearning and craving for intimacy, but also a lot of walls around vulnerability and like a simultaneous fear of it. So
Mm,
that, like, if someone is disorganized and they meet someone who is anxious, they might be more avoidant and closed off. I'm like, oh, I need to keep this person at bay because it's too much for me to let in.
yeah.
And if they meet someone who is, and that same way thing with someone who's secure, there might be this sort of like, I don't know, I can't let all this in. And if
Mhm,
they meet someone who is like a dismissive avoidant, it might bring out their anxiousness because they're like, okay, I need to like make this person, I need to, replay out this dynamic. It becomes like an obsession instead of
mhm.
a connection
Okay.
because it's like a fixation with, I need to prove something to myself through this other person because there's
Mm,
typically a deep belief core wound of I'm not enough and I'm not enough just as I am and I'm also too much. So my
yeah,
feelings and emotions and needs are too much.
yep.
And it becomes this like when those people find each other, it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of the person with these dismissive avoidant patterns is like, oh, well, I have this belief that love is like consuming and that I'm never enough in it. I can't ever make this other person happy. I'm a failure at it. Like that
Mhm,
becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when the anxious person is like, oh, I'm not getting enough out of them. So I'm gonna start criticizing them and telling them I need more, and
mhm,
they're gonna retreat further. So it's
mm.
like this like push-pull dynamic. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of intense highs and lows and that's why people say that when you heal and you attract a healthy connection, you're like, do we have enough passion? Is this okay? Is this what it's supposed to feel like? It just feels a little too easy. It feels a little too normal. Is it,
I've heard of that.
it's that just that it feels foreign
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
they're used to
You think
this
it's like and then you think it's, like, not right, or you're like, "This isn't my person," because it's so yeah, that resonates so much. I've been doing so much work because that's something that's come up for me is, like, I've never had a really healthy relationship, and when my man comes in, like, am I gonna be able to hold that safety and that groundness and that stability and that security and that and in someone that because all I'm used to is push, pull, run, hide, like suffocation, like that huge big bang. Oh my gosh, this is my person. So like when he comes in and he's safe and he's grounded and he's good and he is vulnerable and he can communicate and he's not like too much or not enough, am I going to be able to hold that and like be like, okay, this is good, this is okay, like is my body going to be able to hold that and not run from it because this isn't what I'm used to. And so that
like,
has this been I just want to ask, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but the relationship that you're currently in, has this been something that you're learning to hold in your life?
I was gonna say when you were saying that it's funny how the universe works out because one really beautiful thing is that we're a really strong mirror from each other for each other. Like we have 7 of the 12 exact same placements in astrology,
Oh,
which
wow.
is unheard of. And we are, but this is our first experience where it's been so easy and like healthy on both of our ends. So we're both like
Okay,
navigating that. And so
okay.
it's kind of this beautiful, like what he's giving, I'm letting in, and what I'm giving, he's letting in, and we're like learning it together.
Oh,
Um,
I love
and
that.
it's interesting. Like in the beginning, there was definitely this like I could feel walls of like, I'm fine. I'm fine if it doesn't work out. I'm fine if he doesn't do this. Okay, if he doesn't do this, then I'll know. Like these, I could feel that testing energy coming up in my thoughts. And then I'd be
Mhm,
like, oh, well, he did what he said he was going to do again. Oh, he did that. I heard from, he's so consistent. And
mhm,
that consistency has like there's the feeling of like being able to breathe.
mm,
And he's, shared that with me that I feel consistent. And so it's being able to be like, oh, okay.
hey. We can
Yeah.
have these hard conversations, we can be vulnerable, like, we can communicate, we can we can learn from each other and like grow. I love that for you. That's so beautiful. That gives me so much hope.
It's a conscious awareness piece because
Mhm,
I'm still looking. I'm looking. You know what I'm looking at it.
mhm,
And I'm looking at like, all right, why did I it little bitty little cute small things pop up and you're like, huh. I'll give you an example that I think was so fascinating to me to learn about myself is like I'm continually opening up my ability to receive.
mhm.
And he was grabbing some food and he had to stop by the store. And so I was like, oh, well, you can just get me this from the store. And then he brings it and I made a comment. I was like, oh, I don't usually eat these. And he was like, I would have went somewhere else. And I was like, you would have went somewhere else. So it's like noticing the little ways that it makes me a little uncomfortable to take up more space and to have
Mhm.
more requests and to shed that old like, oh, that's enough. That's good enough. That's fine. And
To
it's
people
those little
please.
subtle ways. Yeah.
Yeah, for you to be you. Like,
Yes.
there's the space for you to be you. And,
Yeah.
like, you're learning that in this relationship that you're like, "Oh, I don't have to sacrifice my actual needs, wants, and desires because he's actually going to do it for me." I
Yes. A
love
big part of our healing is in connection with other people. And that's what I love about plant medicine groups is because you're repatterning your beliefs around men, around women, around like motherly energies, you're around like friendships. And then within a conscious partnership, you are repatterning your nervous system to create new associations. Like, oh, love can feel safe. Love
yeah,
can feel consistent. And
and
so I mean, we really do need each other in this process.
yeah, and that's, like you I was literally going to say, I've done so much healing and so much work on myself, but I know that when I come into union with my person, that's when a lot of the healing is going to really happen as well, because I'm gonna have to learn and heal parts of myself that I've not even uncovered yet by not being in a good, healthy relationship. It's what's interesting is I was guided by my spirit team to do a mushroom journey a few weeks ago. This was actually before I went on my Mexico retreat in August. So it was a few weeks prior to that. And they like had me release all these preconceived notions of like what I thought love was in the form of being intimate with someone. When I tell you I was over a trash can, like, dry heaving and coughing and releasing for, like, an hour, like, I'm not kidding. And then they had me lay there, and I would feel love and security and joy, and I was like and I was uncomfortable in it. And then they would have me feel pain, and I'm like, "Oh, I can do this. I can muster through this pain," and they're like, "See? How is it that you're so quick to be able to endure the pain over actual enjoyment and love and and what like what we're supposed to be able to just lay and receive?" And I was like, "What? I never have even realized that about myself." And so for almost like an hour, the mushrooms like had me like flip-flop back and forth between receiving and being in this energy of like love and safety and joy and then feeling pain. And I until I could actually lay there and comfortably receive this feeling of love and joy and acceptance and pain and just pure just love. And I was just like, and when I got done with this journey, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like okay, can you give me some insight about why this all had to happen?" And they're like, "Because when your divine counterpart comes in, it's not his to heal, and it's not his to make you be able to accept and receive love in its most pure form." And I was just like, I mean, I was sitting there in my room and I was just like a puddle on the floor, like just sobbing. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is something I've never even realized about myself." Like, you would think that it would be easy for us to accept and receive love and safety and joy, and when I realized that it was so uncomfortable to me, I was just like, "Wow, like, we are uncovering some shit."
So
And
powerful and so real.
yeah.
Yeah, in one of my recent ceremonies, I would moved through a lot of stuff, and I had someone just like sit and just comfort and support me the whole time, and I kept feeling all this like guilt of
Mm,
like, oh, like she's having to do all these things for me. I'm needing so much, and it was like that was harder than the times that I've just like must white knuckled through on my own in my apartment and felt all this pain.
yep.
That's so
Isn't
true.
that crazy? It's sad. It's sad because then it makes me think about all the other people in this world that can endure and white knuckle through pain and discomfort so easily that when they are shown real love or
Mhm.
joy or safety, they're like, "Wait, what is this? This is not normal.
I
This
don't
is not."
trust it.
And it's just like it really like I mean, not only was it like sad for me, but it was sad because I was like, if I experienced this, like how many other women, men, people are in the same position?
Mm,
And it's so crazy to me because this is not only stuff that we're healing in this lifetime. This is stuff we're healing from past lifetimes and generations. And like, I mean, it made me think of my mom and then like my grandma and like the feminine lineage in my line. And I'm just like, wow, like this is it's unreal. It's unreal what you the power of mushrooms, the power of realizing your life when you're like, this is not what it's all cracked up to be. The power of taking your healing into your own hands and being like, enough is enough. I know that there's more to me, there's more to this world. And like, how do I uncover that? And like, and get to that point of pure, just like acceptance and gratitude and love for yourself.
mm.
And it's just it's so crazy. It's so crazy to think. I could talk with this about you for I could talk about this with you for hours. But I feel like we've touched all the topics and we've talked about all the things. And is there anything else that you wanted to share, you feel like is on your heart to
No, this was beautiful. I hope that my intention and my prayer in co-creating this conversation with you is that people feel seen by it in ways we could imagine and ways we couldn't imagine.
yeah,
So, yeah, thank you for having me. This was a beautiful conversation.
you. It
And
was so beautiful. Thank you
I'd
for your
love to do it again.
vulnerability.
This is great. Part
Yeah.
2 coming soon.
Yes, thank you for your vulnerability, and sharing your story because I know a lot of that is not easy, but again, it kinda comes to, like, when our pain is turned into our purpose, and if you've experienced these things, I've experienced these things, I know there's other people out there that have experienced it, and the only way that they're gonna step into their healing is by us this is us being unselfish and sharing our story and sharing our light and getting this out there so that they know other people and other women that they can come to be like, okay, I resonate with this and I'm on board. So Taylor, can you please share how people can get a hold of you, how your socials, like all of that, share that really quick so that my audience can, if they resonate with you and love you as much as I do, they can hopefully contact you.
Yeah, I'd love that. And the best way to get in touch with me is probably through Instagram. I'm on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube as Mind Magic with Taylor.
Okay.
So, also my on my Instagram and my TikTok, my link tree is there. It has my email address and everything linked. So, I'd love to
Perfect.
hear from you.
I will include all of that information in the description below. Again, Taylor, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your vulnerability and sharing your story. And I'm so grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasey.
Thank you. All right, guys, we'll see you next week with when the comfortable gets uncomfortable. I hope you all have a beautiful day and take care.